In 1457 BC, on a valley floor in Canaan, humanity recorded its first battle, and nothing was ever the same. The Aruna Pass, a narrow crack in the mountain, was the door no army was supposed to use. He stood at the mouth of the pass in darkness, knowing that what waited inside could kill the entire army. Every soldier Egypt could field had been assembled here. The empire had placed everything it owned on a single morning. Across the valley, 33 Canaanite kings had united their armies. They had chosen their ground carefully. They had chosen wrong. From above, the trap was visible. 2 passes guarded, 1 left open. No one on the ground could see it. They planted the standard before the army moved. A declaration that this ground, this morning, this decision mattered permanently. Nubian archers, Syrian mercenaries, Egyptian veterans. The new kingdom war machine was not one people, it was a system. He stood in his electrum-fitted chariot and made the choices generals begged him not to make. He chose the pass. From behind the Pharaoh, the pass was pure darkness. From inside the mountain, there was no turning back. The Canaanite commander had posted his army at the 2 obvious routes. The 3rd route had not entered his calculations. Military scribes sat with reed pens and papyrus at the edge of the army. They would write everything down. The morning of the world's first recorded battle looked like every other morning on this valley, until it did not. 2 armies, 1 mountain pass, 1 decision. And the question of who controls the road between Egypt and the world. A dangerous pass. A chariot charge across open ground. A 7-month siege. A wall of stone that still carries the record. No mountains protected Egypt's northern frontier. The only defense was the ability to project power outward and keep projecting it. Ancient Megiddo sat on its artificial mound like a fist raised above the valley floor. It had done this for centuries. The city's markets ran every morning. Grain, pottery, linen. The ordinary world had no idea what was 11 days away. 3 routes through the Carmel Ridge, 2 obvious, 1 dangerous. The map told the story if you knew how to read it. The Canaanite coalition camp filled the northern valley. 33 kings had never agreed on anything before. They agreed on this position. For generations, Egyptian tribute collectors had arrived expecting payment. For generations, Canaanite cities had paid without question. The Nile Valley that sent this army was a different order of civilization from anything it was marching toward. Every order the Pharaoh issued was written down. Egypt was a literate empire. It recorded what it did and what it won. At the border fortress of Jaru, the army formed into march columns. The campaign to Canaan had officially begun. The column moved north along the coastal plain, raising dust, taking 10 days to reach the foot of the mountain. A Canaanite scout on a ridge above the plain saw the column below and rode south with the count. The coalition commanders received the intelligence and placed their forces. They covered the obvious routes. The Aruna Pass went unwatched. At the city of Yam, the Pharaoh called his war council. His finger rested on the dangerous route. It did not move. The army marched toward the Carmel Ridge at dusk, the pale white of 10,000 linen kilts moving into the mountain shadow. At the pass entrance, the advance guard disappeared one by one into the mountain dark. The last man went in and did not look back. The clay map showed 3 routes. 2 safe, one that no army had used because no general had been willing to pay the price. The chariot horses were watered at the last trough before the mountain. Inside the pass, there would be nothing for them. At the assembly point, soldiers checked their equipment in silence. They had been told the route. They understood what it meant. From altitude, the pass looked like a thread through the mountain. The column inside it looked like a single file of ants. The stone walls rose sheer on both sides. The sky above was a pale strip. No room to deploy. No room to retreat. The Pharaoh's chariot wheels bounced on loose shale. No chariot was built for this terrain. He had ordered it through regardless. The tightest section required soldiers to turn sideways, shields held vertical. An army reduced to moving through a gap 1 man wide. The advance scout pressed against the stone wall at the pass exit and looked across the valley. The Canaanite army was not there. The first Egyptian soldiers stepped from mountain shadow into the blazing white gold light of the Jezreel Valley. The pass had worked. The advance guard spread left and right from the exit, establishing a perimeter while 10,000 more men came through behind them. The Pharaoh's chariot emerged from the mountain into full valley sun. He looked north at the Canaanite positions. His expression did not change. The column transformed from a mountain file into a valley battle line, with the practiced efficiency of a professional army in motion. The Canaanite coalition saw the Egyptian emergence from the unwatched pass and began to redeploy urgently and too late. The king of Kadesh watched the Egyptian army deploy from the route he had left unguarded. His plumed helmet was handed up to him. The Egyptian chariot squadron spread across the valley floor at full canter, faster than the Canaanite force could reposition to meet them. Canaanite chariot crews ran to their vehicles and scrambled into harness. Organized defense had become improvised reaction in the space of minutes. The Pharaoh's arm extended toward the Canaanite lines. Commanders turned away at speed. The battle that would be recorded forever was beginning. The two armies were visible across the full width of the valley, one deploying from a pass, one redeploying from the wrong position. The Pharaoh's hand closed around his gold-handled Kapesh sword. The decision had been made at the mountain. Now came the consequence. From altitude, two armies moved toward each other across the pale brown valley floor. The largest recorded military engagement in history was beginning. The Egyptian chariot wing advanced at full gallop on the left flank, a moving wall of blue-painted wood, bronze, and horses. The heavier Canaanite 3-man chariots moved to meet them. The speed differential between the two vehicle types was immediately, fatally visible. An Egyptian chariot archer released at full gallop, his body perfectly braced. 3,000 years of composite bow development in one held breath. The Egyptian chariot wing struck the Canaanite chariot line. Vehicles overturned, horses reared. The valley filled with dust and breaking wood. The Egyptian infantry center advanced in tight formation, shields locked, bronze spears leveled, moving at a disciplined walking pace across the open ground. From above, the two infantry centers collided, the Egyptian formation holding shape, the hastily redeployed Canaanite line already losing its order. Inside the Egyptian advance, the faces showed the focused expression of men in forward motion who intend to remain in forward motion. The Pharaoh's chariot moved to the front of the Egyptian line. Every soldier in the valley could see the gold uraeus moving forward. The Canaanite right flank began to lose cohesion under the Egyptian chariot pressure. The line bent. The gaps between units widened. A Canaanite soldier looked left and saw the Egyptian chariot line coming from the direction he had not been positioned to face. The dust cloud above the engagement rose above the valley like a second sky, the signature of the largest battle ever recorded. Nubian archers loosed volleys in timed groups over the front line. The Egyptian combined arms system was working exactly as it was designed to. A Canaanite chariot crew fought to function as a system while their vehicle, their horses, and their formation fell apart simultaneously. From altitude, the battle's shape was clear, the Canaanite right flank broken, the left bent, the center pressed north toward Megiddo. Egyptian soldiers advanced over the ground the Canaanite right flank had abandoned, moving through the debris of a formation that had ceased to exist. The coalition broke across a wide front, not a retreat, a rout. 10,000 men running north toward walls that were still closed. The king of Kadesh's chariot turned north at full speed. The commander of 33 kings was abandoning the field he had chosen. Bronze axes, quivers split open. Composite bow staves snapped in the dust. The physical archaeology of a rout left behind by running men. The Egyptian chariots pursued at full gallop, driving the routing coalition toward Megiddo's walls with no possibility of reforming in the open valley. The routing Canaanite army pressed against Megiddo's closed gate in a desperate mass. The garrison above looked down. The gate did not open. The garrison lowered ropes and knotted clothing over the walls. The gate stayed closed. The Egyptian pursuit must not be allowed to force entry. The king of Kadesh was hauled over his own city wall by rope. The most powerful man in Canaan pulled to safety by his own garrison. The Egyptian advance halted at the base of the tell. Without scaling equipment, the walls could not be taken today. The siege would have to do it. A military scribe sat cross-legged on the valley floor and began to write. The first recorded battle was being documented while the dust settled. The valley floor was covered in abandoned Canaanite equipment, overturned chariots, and the evidence of a coalition that had ceased to function as an army. Egyptian soldiers examined captured Canaanite chariots with professional attention, studying the heavier three-man construction, noting the differences, filing the intelligence away. From altitude, the Egyptian siege camp took shape below Megiddo, white tents in organized rows, chariot parks, horse lines, the infrastructure of a patient army. Egyptian engineers began driving wooden stakes around the base of the tell the day after the battle. The siege encirclement had begun. From below the walls, defenders looked down at the Egyptian perimeter, taking shape around them. No relief force was coming. The mathematics had begun. Egyptian soldiers moved through Megiddo's orchards and grain fields with bronze axes, cutting down the food supply the city depended on surviving the siege. The pharaoh looked up at the walls of Megiddo from the siege line with the particular patience of a man who knows he has already won. The siege camp fires stretched across the valley floor in amber rows. The army that took the dangerous pass was now doing the patient work. Inside the besieged city, defenders on the walls watched the Egyptian fires below and calculated how many days of grain remained in storage. From altitude, the completed Egyptian encirclement was a perfect ring around the mound. Nothing moved in or out of Megiddo anymore. Egyptian scribes cataloged captured goods in the sun, rows of bronze weapons, stacks of armor, chariot components. Every item counted and recorded. In the command tent, the pharaoh received reports and looked at a map of Canaan showing cities beyond Megiddo still to be addressed. The Canaanite prisoners sat in the pale dust of the valley, the human cost of a coalition's strategic miscalculation visible in their faces. Two bound hands in white dust, a craftsman's hands by their build. The anonymous human cost of a king's military decision. Weeks into the siege, the valley carried the long quiet of a mathematical process working through time toward its inevitable conclusion. A rope lowered over Megiddo's outer wall at night. Egyptian sentries below moved toward it. The city's options were narrowing to nothing. Egyptian soldiers stood at their posts on the siege perimeter, the unglamorous, essential work that follows a victory and makes it permanent. Multiple papyrus scrolls now filled the Egyptian command tent, the growing archive of the campaign, the first military documentation project in history. The Egyptian supply donkeys arrived from the south with grain and dried fish. The city above had no supply line. The mathematics were final. After 7 months, the bolt on Megiddo's great timber gate began to move from the inside. The siege was ending the only way it could. City elders in formal robes walked out through the opening gate, hands raised, carrying nothing. 7 months of siege had produced this single moment. The king of Kadesh walked out in a plain wool robe, his bronze armor removed. The man who left one pass unguarded had arrived at the consequence. The pharaoh watched the surrender delegation approach with a neutral expression. He had been right about the pass. History would record that he was right. Egyptian soldiers entered Megiddo's gate in an orderly column. The city that commanded the crossroads of the ancient world now had a new administration. A single Egyptian soldier stood on Megiddo's wall, looking south across the valley at the Aruna Pass. This is where written military history began. From altitude at sunset, the full scope of what happened in this valley in 1457 BC was finally completely visible. The pharaoh stood before the captured gate, his war crown still on his head, his armor dented, his campaign complete and permanent. He looked south at the Aruna Pass from the walls of the city it had delivered into his hands. He had been right. The army that crossed the mountain assembled before Megiddo's walls in the amber evening light. They had done what was said to be impossible. Military scribes received the formal surrender terms from Canaanite elders and wrote them onto papyrus. The first recorded peace terms in human history, the Jezreel Valley at sunset after the surrender. Egyptian flags on Megiddo's walls. Egyptian camp below, the strategic center of the ancient world secured. A Canaanite bronze helmet lay face down in the valley dust, its leather lining rotted, its owner's confidence entirely spent. Egyptian craftsmen began painting the victory inscription above Megiddo's gate in gold and crimson. The record was moving from papyrus to stone. The campfires were larger after the surrender. The army that had maintained the siege for 7 months had finished its work. An older soldier described the arc of the Aruna route to a younger, one by firelight, the oral tradition beginning before the campaign was formally closed. The sealed papyrus record of the Megiddo campaign was handed to a courier. The first military archive in human history was heading for Karnak. The Egyptian army formed into march columns in the early morning, Megiddo behind them, the Aruna Pass, and the road home ahead. They re-entered the Aruna Pass moving south. The same walls, the same shadow, the same tight space. But the direction had changed everything. The army stepped from the southern exit of the pass back onto the coastal plain. The mountain had been used twice, both times with purpose. The return column moved south toward Egypt, prisoners, captured chariots, tribute goods, and the campaign's papyrus records all moving together. At Karnak, craftsmen worked by torchlight, chisels moving on limestone, the account of Megiddo becoming permanent in stone for the first time. The chisel marks were still clean in the pale limestone. The hand carving them was inscribing the first military record that would outlast its empire. Artisans worked on wooden scaffolding across the full height of the Karnak wall, the scale of the inscription matching the scale of the victory. The pharaoh stood before the completed inscription and read the account of his own campaign, a man reading his place in history while still alive. Megiddo under Egyptian administration, garrison soldiers on the walls, the Egyptian standard at the high point, the valley below entirely controlled. An old Canaanite man watched an Egyptian official govern from the hall that had always held different men. His expression said everything words could not. 6 months after the battle, the valley returned to agricultural work under Egyptian administration. The land absorbed what happened and continued. An Egyptian soldier paused on a Megiddo street to look at a Canaanite child looking back. The eye contact of occupation in every century. An Egyptian boundary stele was planted at the Aruna Pass exit, the first monument to the first recorded battle, standing at the place of decision. The hieroglyphs on the stone recorded the pass, the battle, and the siege. The first monument to the first military campaign, placed where it happened. Months after the battle, the valley healed, rains covering the scars, crops returning, the land absorbing the largest engagement it ever carried. In the governing hall, an Egyptian official now sat where a Canaanite administrator had sat. The geometry of power had been rearranged permanently. The Karnak temple walls in the Egyptian sun, the inscription of the Megiddo campaign visible from a distance as a dense field of carved marks. Other Canaanite city kings arrived with tribute, calculating that what happened at Megiddo had settled the question of continued resistance for a generation. The Aruna Pass in the season after the campaign, empty, silent, The mountain shadow exactly as it had been on the morning, everything changed. A scribe used the original papyrus to guide the stone carvers at Karnak. Field record becoming permanent monument, paper becoming stone. A decade after the battle, Megiddo had grown Egyptian administrative buildings alongside Canaanite mud brick, the empire visible in the mixed architecture. The first winter rains turned the valley floor green. The geography cycled through its seasons, indifferent to the history it permanently carried. From altitude, the arc of Egyptian-controlled Canaan stretched from the coast to the inland cities. A campaign begun at a mountain pass, ending as an empire.